Hello, welcome to Jazz Guitar Scrapbook. Like, subscribe, and thereby encourage my blatant attempts to monetize your jazz anxiety.
They've been lying to you, your fellow musicians have been laughing behind your back.
The changes you normally play are absolutely fine. Soloist changes and comping changes don't actually have to agree. In fact, actually, it's often cooler if solo changes and comping changes don't agree. So the good news is what you've been playing is actually fine and sounds good, and works fine as comping chords, and works fine as soloing chords, and nobody laughs at you, and so on and so forth. If you're up for it, what I'd like to do today is get into the weeds a little bit with Parker's approach on the blues, and a few things that I don't think are commonly taught. Okay, so here's a chord chart for Billy's Bounce from the iReal Pro app forums. So this is, I think, fairly reflective of what most people would play on this tune, and representative of what I was taught as a bebop blues back in the day. There's a few variations from chart to chart. Sometimes you see an A-7 flat 5 and bar 8, for example. Okay, so if we look at Bird's melodies, though, we can see a few things. Right, so one interesting thing is actually, I don't think the chord quality that he was thinking of was a dominant 7th. I think it might be more like a 6th chord, or even sometimes an F major 7th. He tends to leave the F7 sound until quite late in the first part of the tune, maybe even leaving it to bar 4, sometimes bar 3. And that's interesting because actually often the people comping for him are playing 7th chords. So it's not necessarily true that nobody plays a 7th chord there, but I think from listening to Parker, he's often thinking more of a 6th chord sound than a dominant chord. So here's some common examples from sort of jam session type Bird blues tunes. I haven't checked all of those tunes out, so if you find any exceptions, I'll be interested to hear. But it seems to be the trend. Now this is not featuring an E flat at all, although some people like to play an E flat in bar 1 as it's going towards the B flat, this kind of thing. So then it becomes... You do hear that, and sometimes you see that in charts as well. But on the whole, people don't play any E flat there at all. It's all based on the F6. Again, no E flat at all. That's just based on really an F triad with a sort of added second. Okay. And the E flat doesn't appear until the sort of upbeat of bar 4. You could hear that was the last note very strongly. It's a low E flat there. And lastly, in Cheryl, it's the same kind of thing, but it appears a bit earlier in the in bar 3. Yeah, we get 2 E flats there. You also get a G flat or a sort of flat 9 there as well, which is quite fun. The interesting thing is, as I say, often the piano player is playing a 7th chord, even though Parker appears not to be thinking of a dominant 7th chord. My favourite example is Cool Blues, where you've got like basically a major key melody, at least in bars 1 to 4, which is clearly accompanied by dominant chords in the piano. It shouldn't work, but it does because everyone is listening. It's not that Bird never played bluesy on chord 1. He actually does it a couple of times in his Billy's Bounce solo, for example. And it's gorgeous. It's actually quite interesting how sort of not jazz that is. It sounds more like a way a blues guitarist would do it. That kind of thing, right? It's got an almost out of time quality to it. It's very conversational, very speech influenced. And he's leaning heavily there on the flat 5 and the flat 3rd as well. And he does sometimes play the flat 7 there too. Later on in the solo he does it, for instance. But I don't think he's thinking of that chord as an F7, suffice to say. I'm going to scrub out that 7 and put a 6 in instead. Okay, the next bit. Right, the B flat 7 is most definitely a 7th chord, so we're keeping that. On this, he likes to play the F blues scale. In fact, I would go far as to say that is mostly what Bird likes to do on this chord. Aside from the blues, Parker actually has a sound in tunes like Confirmation. While chord 1 might sometimes go a bit blues, chord 4 is very much where the blues goes. So anyway, guitarists, you know what to do. Fill your boots. This shape is big and clever. Right, that B diminished 7th chord though, that's not a universal fixture. It appears in some tunes, for instance, Now's the Time, where we clearly hear a B flat B move in the bottom. There it is. Yeah. Other than that, they often just leave it out. I don't think they like diminished chords that much. I think they were a bit old-fashioned sounding, a bit New Orleans-y perhaps. So we definitely don't have this chord for Billy's Bounce, whatever this chart says. Right, so up 3rd is bars 7 to 8. I've got quite a lot to say about this. So the changes are actually fine. A minor 7, D7 for what Bird plays on Billy's Bounce. Often I think he might use an A half diminished there, A minor 7 flat 5. He definitely likes the sort of D Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13 thingamy-bobbin, whatever you like to call it. D Phrygian dominant, G harmonic minor. Here's a few typical Bird phrases where he uses it. That's a nice one. You can hear it's got a wrap around there at the end, which doesn't belong to the scale, and also there's very clear F major 7th. Again, we got that sort of harmonic minor tonality there. Again, notice how often he reaches the F major 7th chord sound in bar 7 in the run up to that bar. You don't find that on many charts, and yet there it is. Actually, quite often he doesn't play anything there at all. It's just basically crickets. And in this case, you can hear the piano quite clearly play. So like a little side slip, whatever you call it, down, just chromatically, works really easily on guitar. And in fact, A flat minor 7 does turn up as a source of lines as well, and it sounds super beboppy, as you can hear. In that turnaround, for example. And it has A flat minor 7th chord has quite a bit in common with D 7 flat 9. Basically these two notes, which are E flat, G flat, G flat and E flat that way around, which are notes Bird likes to target a lot in his lines in this part of the blues. So for the melody of Billy's Bounce, it's actually a little bit ambiguous as to which is which, you know, so we have these two notes. Is it this or this? I quite like the A flat minor 7th there. I think it sounds quite cool. I'm going to add that into the chart. Time for a demonstration. Anyway, hope you found that helpful. Thanks for watching. Please leave any comments below. See you on the next one.